Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here is an interesting one for you. Not something seen every day. Maybe something you will learn during this video, as I sure did. Here is the owner of Fab, and I will put links in the description, or you can chastise me for not doing it in a timely manner, which is probably expected to happen. Anywho, this man created an adapter to put the AR5 transmission, which is a little-known 5-speed behind the Colorado Canyon, Solstice, and some other GMs like the Polaris Slingshot drivetrain and some other interesting things. So he created an adapter that you can bolt to a 4L60E bell housing and easily and cheaply put this $200 to $300 5-speed transmission up against an LS engine. And he wants to test how strong it is. He has had a 500-ish horsepower RX-7 for years and wanted to really push on this because all he gets is questions about how much power they can handle. There are a bunch of, I guess, Mark III super guys that have put this transmission in their car and make 700 horsepower and about 400, 500 foot-pounds of torque. So he wanted to push well beyond that. Anyway, he got in touch with me. He sent me a free kit, which we ended up putting on my neighbor's car to test out. It is excellent. I love the kit, and the transmission is surprisingly smooth. And as soon as he finishes his rear gear and locker and disc brake upgrade, we will show a video tuning and driving that. Fast forward ahead. Matt lives in Minnesota and decided it would be fun to test this thing and scramble. He has a long story up. I think he's going to do a long YouTube video also. But he just finished this damn car and drove it basically a little over 1,000 miles out to my dyno. And he changed the oil on the dyno and we blasted the thing and we ended up with about 882 horsepower and almost 800 foot-pounds of torque on pump ethanol. So I will show the dyno pulls, and then after that, I believe, we'll just go over some of the HP Tuner stuff for fun. So really awesome project, crazy. He didn't have to come out here, obviously. There's plenty of places in his hometown, plenty of places in the country along the way to me, but it's just something he wanted to do. Figured it would be cool to come out and see me and get tuned. So he did. He blasted all the way out here. We tuned the car and he made almost 900 horsepower, 800 foot-pounds, and he drove straight home, 1,800 miles round trip. Really awesome guy. It was cool to meet him and his friend. Incredible story that they just blew out here. We made that kind of power and then he went home. So enjoy the pulls. Also check out FabBot, the adapter plate. He also sells engine lift plates. He was also kind enough to do a bunch of charities for my friend Corey that was struggling with some medical bills, that we did some other charity organizational stuff for him on Sloppy. Other people donated, etc. So really awesome company, awesome product. It's shaping up to be quite an awesome budget transmission, and he is currently testing the limits and is obviously going to tell you what he finds and if anything breaks, etc. So thank you. Have a nice day. Enjoy the videos. gentlemen, let's go over the facts. We started this at like 10 at night and we ended up at like 3 in the morning or something like that. So the first hit with my base flashed in there was actually good enough to stay wide open, and it was about 450 horsepower, 480 foot-pounds. So let's see what I saw. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Right about here, we went wide open. We started seeing boost about 3,000. And then we had a flatline boost at about 4,500, which basically is always, I think, off top of my head, this is about where we always saw maximum boost, about 4,500. So you can see only 15% injector duty cycle. We were having problems with his alcohol sensor. It wouldn't read at all, but it was the sheets like at least 75%. So 141 kPa. Let's kPa calc. Let's bring up the old boy here for you guys. Visual reference for you. 140. 5.8 psi. A little bit on the fat side. Let's leave that open actually. What am I doing? Closing that thing like a schmuck. So, as you can see here, roughly 141 kPa and 16, 17 degrees up top. What do we make? 450, 485 foot-pounds. Yep, 10.0 fat right here. I found out that it was shutting the throttle. It was a combination of like speed limiter, rev limiter bullshit you always run across when you're messing with stock computer. So I can't remember exactly what it was, but we found it. And right here we had no speed limiter problem. 12.5 air fuel since it was so low on boost. 21 degrees, no gain. So this number 2 here, 11:01 p.m. Is this time right on the dyno computer? I don't think it is. Oh, it looks like it is. Maybe 11:04, 448 and 475. So no gain on spark. As you can see, this one, rev limiter or speed limiter was kicking in. Let me turn on the cursor. Right about here it was dipping these guys. The green one, it did not. So I threw some spark at it. Thought it would gain. It did not. So we went back. So 450 horsepower or 475 foot-pounds at 5 pounds. 5-6 pounds, not bad at all. So we were messing with the boost controller. We had some issues where I would floor it and it would break up and lean out. We never fixed those. We're still trying to figure out what that is. I don't know if he did. I rarely ever tune a E40 ECU, and every now and then, probably 1 out of 5 times I go to floor it and this thing just didn't want to do it. I could key drop it on the dyno and it was happy. So this is where it finally started to add some boost. 143 kPa, 18 degrees. Finally we got some boost in her, tiny bit. Yep, 18 up top, 144. So this was at what? 11:30? 11:27, same thing, 464, so a tiny bit. So finally by 50% duty cycle, he had an AEM true boost. So finally by 50% duty cycle here, we were seeing 157 flatline. So 157 kPa, we finally saw about 8 pounds. 8 pounds, 17 degrees. We saw 508 rear wheel. 8 pounds, 7 degrees. So that was this boy right here. And then 60% was 10 pounds. 10 pounds, 14. And we worked our way up. And then this is where we ran into an issue. We couldn't get any more than like 15 or whatever pounds. So 15 pounds, 15 pounds, 15 pounds. We couldn't get any more duty cycle out of it. So this is when we hooked up the shop air. You'll see in the video. At some point I have orange hose and a regulator running. So what I did was I backed his boost controller all the way off and put the regulator on and guessed. And it went right to 16 pounds, which was 16 pounds, 13 degrees, 696 rear wheel. As we can see here. We'll zoom in a little bit. So we got 214 kPa, 13 degrees. So 214, roughly 16.5 pounds. Doing really good. So we obviously pressed on, and as it was getting late, I didn't want to screw around too much. I started winging on the dial. So we saw 26 pounds on this hit, and actually it's right in between 26 and 29 because he had a 2.5 bar map, and as you can see, it pinned that thing. We hit 247 flat, and his AEM True Boost said 29, but anybody that owns an AEM True Boost knows if you do a really quick pull and you lift really hard, it's going to spike. What it gets is like the throttle closing or something. So I guesstimated about 26 pounds of boost, 12 degrees of timing up top, only 43% of the injector, and it made 882. It's neat to see the progression of these as we cleaned up spark and then we started adding boost. Oh, yeah, we can only add so many. 441, 508, 550, 600. We'll go every 2. Yeah, and then we'll get rid of the torque line so we can see a little bit better over engine RPM and then over wheel speed. Pretty cool. Yeah, I saw boost come flying up, so I lifted out of this one, but awesome to see. 900 rear wheel and 787 foot-pounds of torque. I lifted early. I think a lot of you guys would have also. So it's neat to see that result. He plans on just continuing to punish the transmission and finding the weaknesses. So, I mean, it's really cool to see an affordable 5-speed transmission, extremely affordable 5-speed for LSs. And hope you guys enjoyed. I think the project is really cool. I think the transmission works really great. You know, if you don't have over 1,000 horsepower. Well, I mean, here's the thing. They might figure out that this is fine for that kind of horsepower, but we'll see as time goes on and longevity of this kind of power and what kind of abuse people put them through. Obviously, I think a daily driver turbo car that spins the tires, far less demanding than, say, a drift car that's getting clutch kicked at high horsepower all the time. So what is interesting is he has a close to 2-ton truck right now that's on the street, and he's going to be pounding it, and he plans on putting some really sticky tires on it and launching it at the track and finding the weaknesses there. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for updates from him and I.